It's very nice to see that so many are interested in my point of view here. So thank you for being here. And of course, that's very true. I think that servant leadership in Bosnia, but even so in other countries, I have lived in Sweden for 25 years. It's actually same type of a challenge, even there, to go from more specialists to generalist roles and actually appreciating what a servant leader actually can do. But I will touch upon these subjects, of course, in this next, I think we have now half an hour because we are a bit late. So I'll try to be precise there. I'll begin with a little story that happened the other week at our office. We've got an issue. My colleague Damir said to me, well, we were on a coffee break, and he says, Vernisa, we have got a serious issue. One of our major clients' network infrastructure is too large to handle the actual requirements that we have set upon this device. And we see that the performance will be reduced up to 30 to 40% today, as of now. And I say, well, interesting, Damir. Have you consulted the team which produced the drivers for our product networks cards? Also, please, can you give me the information on current amount of standard communication that is exchanged between the devices and servers? You know, to revise this logic to make this amount reduced to optimal minimum. Now, did this really happen? No, it didn't. Because the title and the subject of the speech today is that I actually, even though that I don't know how to code, I don't have any technical background from the beginning. I am a chief operating officer, and that means the operational responsible for one of the IT companies here in Sarajevo, and that is Softhouse Balkans. So I will try to tell you, how do I cope with this work? What type of tasks and responsibilities do I think that I have to manage, and that I manage with success, even though I don't have any technical background. And I'll also try to nuance this, seeing on how do we actually couple if we have a specialist going into a leader role as opposed generalist, or somebody who has maybe developed more into leadership in general, as I have. Before we go into actual content, I will tell you something about myself. I use the Simon Sinek Golden Circle. How many have read some of the Simon Sinek books? Yes? And you know about the importance of why? I'm highly inspired by Simon Sinek, and what he actually says with his Golden Circle, he says that every great leader needs to be inspirative enough to know the why of the organization. That is the starting point that you actually need to have. And I think the same goes for individuals. You have to know your why. What is your contribution here in the world and in the profession? So I've, of course, thought about my why and my passions. And my passion is to make business and people grow. And for the best part, if these two are interlinked, so I can help that people grow so they can make sustainable business and make people grow, then I'm really, really happy, and I think I achieved my passions. I also have a soft spot for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and especially for the connections between Bosnia and Herzegovina and Sweden, in all, but especially in business. And that is due to that I'm Bosnian born, but I have, as I said, lived in Sweden for 25 years. And I've just this year moved back to Bosnia to live and work for a Swedish company. So there is the connection. How I do this? I do it by lean and agile leadership. I truly believe in these methodologies because I think that they cohere with my values, that it is the people who make the companies. And going back to what we said about servant leadership, my solely role and the most important role is to serve the people in the business, to serve the business. So I use a lot of techniques, and still, of course, I'm every day learning how to achieve that. What I do, I am the COO of the Softhouse Balkans, as I just told you. I would like us to take a look at 2 two lanes how you can come to some kind of leading or management position. I will also talk about difference between leaders and managers, and I'm really curious to see about what you feel about that and how you think afterwards. But now we have this role that I have. As many individuals, as many ways up to a role, right? But I still have tried to depict two things, and both are dependent upon if you are a specialist or a generalist. And I've chosen here a stamp because in Bosnia we like stamps a lot. So there is a stamping specialist. So either there is one lane, and maybe some of you recognize that. You might be a specialist within an industry. If we take the IT industry, maybe you're a really good programmer. In your department or in your company, there are different ways to continue further in your career. So maybe you go into being a team lead, you go into being an architect or a CTO or whatever, but that could be a path that you take. Another path. And by the way, how many recognize themselves in this role? Have you been a programmer and then went into a leading role? Yes. In our company, people are a bit reluctant because they say that they really, really love to program. So they are, but we are kind of, we are turning that around. Another thing is, and that I advocate for it, people talk about generalists, but I think that I have went through different industries, and I will tell you a little bit about that. But I think that the leadership and the management in itself are the specialties. So the more industries you have seen, and the more genuine interest you have had about leadership, that makes you good of a leader. If you work for an organization that can actually accept and work with a servant leader. On my part, I will just let you know what kind of work I have done from my year 15 up until today, which gives me kind of a range of leadership and also working on the floor. I've been a care assistant, I've been a telemarketer, I've been a barista. These are my 20s. I've been an analyst. Customer responsible when we introduced congestion taxes in Sweden. Handled really, really angry customers who didn't really want to pay for the taxes for when they drive. That was really useful. Project manager within an IT department, but more on the business side. Strategic project manager. I've been a lean coach for a rather large organization. Have done steering board member assignments, quality manager. I've been a president of a great network of 800 members. Again, went back to lean coach. I love that so much, and today I'm a CEO. And in these past, say, 15 years, I really think that with my genuine interest for leadership, I have observed many people do good things and do bad things in their leadership, and also tried some things out. But I think what has been essential to me is that I have been practicing lean for the last 10 years, and I kind of am inspired and get a lot of methodologies from there. For the last 2 years, I have been working with Agile, and I am very, very interested in seeing how these two marry. Approaching a new organization, such as I did, with no technical background, moving to Bosnia, first time working as a COO, first time working in an IT organization, first time working professionally in Bosnia. There are some clashes of cultures, even though I'm Bosnian born, but I've never worked here. Many people said I was really crazy to do all these things and all these changes, but I thought, let's go Agile. Let's try out for a year. What's the worst thing that can actually happen? But also I had a strategy, because I know that once you approach a new organization, you really need to, in a really fast way, grasp how do we actually produce value here? Because that is the essentials of a company or any organization. For whom and how do you produce the value? So what I actually did when I arrived in Softhouse was that I had a plan to, of course, understand who is the customer and what value do we bring to them. What is the system of delivering this value? When I talk with people who are kind of hardcore agilists, and when I talk about processes, I often get the response, but that's over-documenting, that's putting the constraints on Agile that actually don't need to exist there. I kind of disagree, and I will explain why. Last, but the most important, of course, is having a high interest in who are the people delivering the value. And starting from the last picture, since I knew that I was entering an Agile organization, we at Softhouse, we have a highly developed way of working with Scrum, with Agile, even prompting our customers to do the same. So I knew that I was coming in an Agile organization, and that the system and the complexity of an Agile organization is different to what it would be if you go into a production, of course, that is more repetitive. So here we have 18 dots. It's the 18 people represented today. And the complexity in it is that we have people with different experiences, different ways of working, different skill sets. We have the market that is really complex. These people will not forever be working in one project, but they're rather rapidly moving from one project to another. And all of this needs to be taken care of and set. So the assignment number 1 is handle the complex environment and the network of people and competencies, and make sure that this works for the benefit of our organization. How do we do this at Softhouse, or are striving for to do, and have kind of implemented this into everyday work life? I have the goal to enable people to grow, and actually to grow the experts, because I'm not expert myself. And I might say that even had I been an expert, if you have the overall responsibility for organization, you don't have the time to work in a project like that. But you have to build up the experts around you. And what we actually do is that I truly care about this question. In dialogues with our team members, employees, colleagues, we talk about these things. First, to get to know what are the needs of the market, what have we said that we will achieve this year in our business, but also what are your skill sets and what are your drives and passions, and how can we get these two to meet? What will be your next assignment? What assignment are you working on right now? Maybe there will be an opening that can get these two things to meet. Just to have this talk and to actually actively work on this, that is one of my assignments. Some companies have HR responsibles. We don't. We don't really think that is one person that needs to do this work, because we have divided this among us. Another thing that I think is important, as I mentioned, is that you get to know and you get to stabilize the delivery system, how you produce value. As I said in my short pitch there, first we have the complexity, but then we have the tools of lean. Lean, as I've learned working for example, Scandinavian Airlines and some other companies, they usually like to depict their value systems within 3 lanes. And what are these? Except of the core processes that we have in our company. And for us working in IT environment, that is of course the development and the delivery of the product we actually have. There are also other things that we might not think about, but that needs to be taken care of in a good way. Most, or in the best case, also in an agile way. So we have the governance of the company, the core processes, and also the enablers that make us deliver. So what do we have in the governance way? We have, of course, planning business, setting targets, setting the budget. And a good question to ask here, in your companies, how much are the employees involved in these processes? How agile are they? Or are they just kind of put sent upon us from somebody central, and we deliver on them. And do we know our goals? So this is also something I work actively on. The enablers, we have for example, the recruitment, the people care that I just mentioned, the PR and marketing that enable the core process to actually work. Because how can we work in development and selling the right right skills if we haven't recruited the right people, or if we don't give them the chance to develop further? Another question which I think that we've just recently talked about in our organization is the touch point between the selling and the delivery. In Softhouse, we work with, when we agree and get a new client, they always get the opportunity to have an Agile agreement with us, because that is something we really encourage, but you can also get a fixed price. And this can sometimes cause a lot of commotion within our organizations, because you need to adjust your delivery towards what kind of things and expectations you have set upon your client. Do you recognize that challenge? You work with a client who is not truly Agile, you try to be Agile and things go rather wrong. Anybody has been in that situation? Yes, yes, so that's not unusual. So many things like that need to actually be taken care of, and somebody needs to coordinate the whole. Here, you don't have to have the technical expertise, but you really have to know what you're doing in regards of leadership. And by the way, I was just talking to Ari, because in his presentation he said that Lean and Agile are the same thing, or he said that Agile is the overall umbrella, but Lean is underneath. I didn't agree. I think that's that dilemma that I was talking about, coming from the Lean practitioner perspective. I think that I have my Lean umbrella and maybe Agile is underneath and so on. People are kind of talking about that a lot, but I think that never mind what umbrellas, if you have the interest to understand how the methodologies of Lean and Agile can help you, and how they can actually cohere. And here with this, I've tried to explain. Before we go into that, I will just mention also, of course, another risk that I talked with Ari, that he actually mentioned, okay, that is a good thing using Lean, because, you know, in the Lean methodologies, you kind of take an end-to-end perspective and the system thinking perspective to see how are we actually handling the whole. You want to reduce the bottlenecks, you want to reduce the amount of waste that flows through your processes, but you don't want to make a waterfall out of it, right? You want to have the value delivered continuously. In our organization, this is actually the first and foremost motto. So in everything we do, we try to be to conduct our work in this way. So it's really important to consider. Some of the examples, I'll just blip through these fast and mention some. If I would to mention some of our clients, I will take one of our biggest clients we've had. When I arrived in January in Sarajevo, there was a great commotion with this client. Why? Because the year before, we had received an agreement with them that we take the existing product they actually have and make the new version of it with the new technology and according to a new design. And once we've done it and the product hit the market, it started selling really well. We, as a young generation organization, weren't really ready for the amount of maintenance this actually meant. I see my colleagues kind of nodding their heads. That is correct, because they felt it more than I, even though in the last year. So what we actually did was that we, when we sat down with this client, we had to manage a lot of things where Lean and Agile in combination came in handy, like working with what is the process that we have for systematical problem solving. What does our maintenance problem process look like? So even though I didn't have a clue, I had the tools to help the team visualize this process and look at the bottlenecks and solve them and agree, kind of like the heartbeat room, but around the way of working, so we help these knots to be tied up. Also, visualization of handling issues and bugs. I think that can often cause a lot of problems because developers think that they solve the issues and they think that all the documentation after that is kind of waste, but it's not, because you have to show the client the work done and the analysis done because they need it. So you have to act upon the client's need as well. One interesting thing that we did was the alignment from big room planning to continuous delivery. When I kind of got to know Scrum better, I understood that Scrum is really good in managing one project and one team. But once this project gets a bit more complex, of course, people have invented SAFe, like Scaling Agile Framework. This is something that came afterwards. So we have been inspired by SAFe and by Scrum and Kanban, and made with this client an agreement on how would we align from the vision of the product and big room planning up until down to continuous delivery on the product, so that we don't actually have the bottlenecks that we experience. Because during last year there was a lot of, oh, it's not our fault, it's a client, or no, it's the delivery. So we met and agreed on this process throughout, from end to end, which is really important for the entire delivery. So what I'm really trying to say, I've heard, I'm trying to tell you about my experience. They needn't be right or wrong, but I see that they work for us and they're kind of lifting us one step further. But of course, I read a lot and I listen a lot, and many people are considered with, you know, what is this management and what is this leadership? If you manage, are you kind of this tough manager that tells people what to do? And if you lead, you're kind of in this way kind of more open, and you have a sense of aura around you where you get people to follow. And I think that you don't have to choose, and I think that out of my experience working now for these 10 years, 10 months with in Sarajevo, I think of course that we need an amount of both. Why? Because this system needs to be managed, and people also want to be led. I wouldn't like to work in an organization that just imposes on me a lot of rules, but still, for example, the quality of code, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Our colleagues know how to test or how to code, so it's just to do it, actually. But on the other way, I would never like to work for an organization where people don't see me, where they don't get to know my ideas, and where my ideas are not considered to be implemented. So I think that what is Agile in this, having to deal with both perspectives, of course, it's that management and leadership, somebody said this during the morning, and I've really been inspired about this. It's the actions, and the management and the leadership does not have to necessarily be tied to a function. I'm not the only one managing and leading, and we talk about this a lot in our company. So one of the goals that I actually have is to enable more people to manage and to lead. The examples that I have is that now when we are going into business planning this year, it is expected of us from the central group that actually everybody is joining in the business planning, because how would I know the needs of the markets? Just I. Much of the knowledge and the potential lies among my colleagues. If we were to kind of tie the dots in between, I was talking about growing people, making sustainable businesses through operational excellence, and looking at the way of working. Process work does not have to be unfun. You can make it really fun, and you can make it really useful. So growing people and growing and making sustainable businesses, but you need to come to the point where you grow people that grow the business. How we do it, we work with this or strive to work with this actively. Here is a picture of one of our core processes at Softhouse. It's, of course, the development and the delivery process of software products. I usually say that it is a waste in the business if we don't listen to all these people working like programmers that build and hopefully test at the same time, because we're working on that a lot as well. And the QA departments, of course, and the Scrum Masters and the client themselves. If you don't take time to listen to these people who are closest to the business, how can you develop your business? Because the knowledge and these ideas are not only within me, but they are actually, for the most part, with the people serving the business or serving the client. So that is, of course, one of the things that a person in a role and responsibility such as I needs to handle and needs to take care of. What have we done since January when I came? When I first came to Softhouse, of course, after gaining trust with my colleagues, and they actually saw that I was listening to them and wanted to hear what they have to say, we set a goal where we say that do not let any good ideas be left unsaid, because we cannot afford it. We really need to hear these ideas so we can prosper together. But it's not enough just to set a goal. You need to set a system to take care of that goal, and you need to set a time aside to use that system. What do? You recognize the retrospectives, of course. We actually do the retrospectives after every sprint. Looking at the way of working, this is, for the most part, the exercise that we do. I know that many people like to kind of try new exercises, but now we have hung around this one for quite a while. I think the team likes it. But we have these quadrants where we talk about, okay, what have we done well, kind of to praise ourselves. What problems do we actually have seen this time? What new ideas do we see? And the roses. Who can we, who has done a really good job this sprint? Who has helped me, you? Is it the team effort, and so on? And out of the ideas and the problems, we dot vote to see what goes into the action plan. And what we do on the next retrospective, we follow up on this action plan, so nothing gets lost. So you really need to have the system that people need to believe in, doing things like that. The previous picture was taking care of the ideas in the actual delivery, and this quick feedback. And the risks there, of course, is that if you make an action plan but don't follow up on it, then people will start believing in it, and they will just think, oh, I'm just generating a lot of ideas, but I don't get anything out of it. Nobody wants to follow up. So you need to follow up. That is also one of my tasks, and everybody else who leads in our organization. Another thing that we do to allow or kind of grow this environment where we have the ideas and everybody gets to say, feels free to say their opinion. We have a Kanban board that we have for our office where we meet weekly for 15 to 20 minutes. And we have decided upon some areas that are not client related, but it's admin issues. Some mistakes in my salary. What about the number of vacation days? Whatever that we need to solve. We talk about active leaders, employees. We have gotten a new employee who will mentor this person, for example. So every task that we actually have here, we put as stickers, and we follow it. And the best thing is that I'm not the only one doing these things. And it is neither not expected from my colleagues. We share that among us. And for example, knowledge sharing, of course, seminars or congresses or events such as this. This time I'm speaking, but next time it will be somebody else. So we kind of spread this responsibility among us. Another thing that we do from time to time, we take and kind of revisit some of the processes. And I do this when I feel that there is some kind of informal talk about people are kind of gathering up and during the lunches or during the coffee breaks talking about something. I hear that because, and I try to pick up on that because I think that's such a shame if those good ideas go to waste. Such was the case with our recruitment process. For the past 6 months, we have doubled in size. So many people have come to the interviews, and because we also, in the second part, always include our colleagues to interview the future colleague, because that is always the common decision: who will start working for Softhouse, who is a Softhouser. Many had reflected upon what they have seen, and they had a lot to say. So having heard these ideas, I said, let's gather up and kind of just visualize this process and see with 3 different types of stickers. I like stickers. They call me Stickers Queen, and I don't mind because I think that's a great tool. But start and end, what triggers and what ends the process, what activities do we have? I will not go through it. We don't have the time, but you know how a recruitment process looks like. But then just kind of putting stickers on and gathering people around. Hey, you said this and you said that. Let's write this up and let's try to solve this. Just this common visualization, I think, helps us a lot to agree on things and improve them. How to make ideas grow and how to make people feel like superheroes in their company. It's, again, the assignment that starts from the leading positions, but kind of ends with or is everybody's responsibilities if we talk in an agile manner. But on my part, I like to always have a focus on clarity on the ideas. I've just told you that in different forums we handle different ideas so people don't feel overwhelmed and they can feel that their ideas are taken care of. We need to have those forums for the ideas. And of course, when I started in January, I first started with the weekly meetings. I have worked with organizations that have monthly meetings and other forums, but I kind of waited that out until I felt that this organization was mature for that. So you don't start with the forums, you know, everything at once. Listen actively. You really need to be, as a leader, an active listener. You need to find a way to process your ideas. I showed you our Kanban. You need to set time aside to follow up. We will come to that. And of course, what I've learned, sometimes I kind of throw out the question. I ask, who will do it? And nobody answers. Or everybody will do it. That neither works. We need to create task force. And that is also agile, around the question that kind of dissolves later when this is solved. And you need to have the follow-up. The follow-up is the key to everything. If you don't follow up, people don't see that that is important. So having said this, I've just led you through some of the responsibilities that I have, that where my goal is that we have shared responsibilities more and more in our team. I still, of course, feel very interested in talking and understanding the programmers. So sometimes, for fun, I go to Facebook and, you know, the programmers' jokes just to see how well do I understand these people. And I kind of, yeah, I laugh with them on some of the occasions, and some things we talk about and recognize. Like here, there's a hyper. What kind of animal is this on a programmer? And the programmer is shredded with tasks. This happens. This one I also understand because I also try to see, I'm kind of happy, my heart jumps with joy when I understand the jokes that programmers understand. That's some kind of, yeah, you know, I like that. But front end and back end, I understand this. We've had this in these conversations in our projects. What's the trade-off with front end and the back end? This one I really think is funny. Debugging is like being a detective in a crime movie where you're also the murderer. It's really dramatic, but it's so true. I hear them talking about this a lot, and we are working on this actively. Yeah. How can you feel exposed as a programmer to a client when you have a team lead like this? I don't want to be that person. And also this one is from our environment. The other day I was entering the office and with Zana here, and I was like, oh, Git, what is that? And she says, you know, Git, you know, when you push to deploy, Git, you know, push. I was like, I understand that actually. I was really happy about that. And this one I just put here because this one I didn't understand. These are 2 types of people. There are some brackets, and how you move brackets, that kind of gives you other different outcome. I have 1 minute left. Yes, thank you. But I'm sure that my colleagues after this will, you know, Vernisa, how didn't you know that? We told you about that. That is something that we will learn, we will teach you. To finish off, what happened with the issue in the beginning? Houston, we have a problem, where I said, Houston, we have a solution. I relied on the experts, but of course, as I explained to you, my task is to follow up, because I will have the follow-up meetings with the client. So what I do is that I enable good predispositions for the experts so they can work with the solutions to do the job, and a good support and a follow-up system. Quickly, I will show to you a tool that I've learned from Scandinavian Airlines working there, which this is a tool that they work with on the highest level and also in operations. Coming across a problem, they have a 3C model working around a problem. I know that in troubleshooting or whatever, in programming, maybe things can be even more complex than so, but I think you can get by with this, asking the questions about what is the concern in this, did you agree on the problem with the client? What are the causes? What kind of cause analysis did you use? What did you come up with? Did you use a quick fix and a workaround, or have you found a sustainable solution to this problem? And is this documented, and in what sense? So I can get the information I need to talk to the client on the level that I actually have the responsibility for. Last message from me for this speech is, do not settle. You deserve a COO who does not know how to code, I write here. But of course, that is not the entire truth. I'd like to strike that out. I think that you deserve a COO who has a genuine interest in making people and businesses sustainable and to grow. And of course, you might say that if they code, it's a bonus, but it is not a must. Some of the effects that we've had on these in these past 10 months, I'll just quickly go through them. Working in this way, we have stabilized and broadened the client relationship. The client that was really mad with us now wants to broaden the cooperation, which is really, really good. We have achieved our goal there. We have 3 new customers and preparing for more. We have grown from 9 to 18 Softhousers, and of course, very important, we have stable and further increased employee satisfaction, which is also one of the keys. Thank you for the attention.